Welcome to Dadmode, a podcast that is the Triforce of gaming, streaming, and dad life in general.
Welcome to Dadmode. Tonight we have a special guest. We have the Daily Dad. He is a streamer on Twitch. This is probably where you know him, but give a proper intro. He is a dad, a husband, a firefighter, a streamer in that specific order. Bearded and I have known him for a little bit of time now. He is an amazing person, an amazing father and family man, and we're honored to have him on the show, talking a little bit about being a role model and focusing on responsible gaming with your kids. Daily Dad, how the hell are you doing?
Hey, first and foremost, about half of that seemed about right. The first half made me sound real good. I think you just fluffed me up. That's the second half, but I'll take that. I'll take that on the shoulder every day of the week. Thanks for having me.
Bearded Nova, how are you doing?
I'm good. I've spent the last week on the couch. The entire week on the couch. My wife's been sick, newborn. I'm waking up in the middle of the night, and then when I wake up in the middle of the night, she just wants to go back to sleep. So we just fall asleep on the couch. So I've spent the last 6 days sleeping on the couch, and my back is holding up fine.
Very nice. I'm impressed.
Yeah, sometimes the couch is the best.
Oh, it's a pretty good couch. You take those cushions off, you've got like a good 4 feet there of space to lay across.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when you've been with somebody long enough, you go couch shopping and you have to lie down in the position that you're in a lot when you're kicked out. I mean, when you're deciding to lie down, and making sure that's a good, comfortable couch. When I built this room, my studio up here, it's above a garage and there's a ladder. I still got a couch because I had a feeling I might have to use it every now and then.
And the other thing is you want to know, not if you got kicked out. It's like maybe it's too hot. You get too hot. You get overheated and you're like, I need to go downstairs where it's more wide open. And, I don't have about 14 blankets on me.
I feel like I gave away too much about my personal life. All right, let's get into some questions. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you that I didn't touch in the bio there?
So and I'm gonna give a little hint that we were talking about a little bit before the stream and or I'm sorry, the podcast stream. I'm still in that mindset. Yeah. So I am over 40 now. I crossed over, and sometimes I still get occasionally mistaken for 30s. I took a real yeah. And I took a real vested interest in physical, like taking myself physically. So I grew up pretty skinny, pretty scrawny dude. And in the fire service, you can't really be one of those. You got to kind of have the back end to be able to do the work. And so I was lucky to have a mentor that really took me under his wing. I've been lucky to have many mentors throughout my entire life, but taking care of myself physically, and then kind of got the emotional rocky start when my ex-wife and I got separated. And then I found my amazing, beautiful wife that I have now. And so we have ourselves as they classify, blended family. And, I got to be honest. I know the magazine articles and, internet articles all say one thing, but I got to say, it's been actually an absolute joy. I haven't really had too many horror stories or anything like that. So a lot of support all around.
That's awesome. And you have 2 daughters?
Yeah. So our eldest daughter is going to be turning 12 here in about a month. And then our youngest just turned 10, and our mom / bonus mom / my wife, she just turned 29 for the 5th time.
You know what? Speaking of couches, enjoy yours tonight.
Yeah, no, we actually do this every single year on her birthday since we've been together. Our daughters absolutely love it. We have a cake and we put on the exact same candles, the 2 and the 9, every single year, like the exact same ones, and she still laughs till this day when she comes out and sees the cake. It's almost got to be like tradition at this point.
Yeah. That's interesting. So my oldest son turned 12 a week ago.
Ooh,
And
we all have kids the same age.
My
This-
youngest turned 10 a month ago, so I'm right there with you.
Dang, look at us.
Yeah, my son's
2-0.
my son's 12,
Mm.
and our second youngest is turned 10 last week.
There we
Yeah,
go.
not to put any tinfoil hats on, but the government put something in the water.
Well,
I think
Even
I
s-
think so.
even Smash, he's kids at 12 as well.
Same?
Everyone I know
Oh
at the
my
moment
God,
has
that's
to have a
wild.
12-year-old that I meet.
That's weird. That is,
Yeah, that is
that is
wild.
weird. It's also considering I'm at least 5 years older than you. All that means is I had a much quieter first several years of my marriage than some other people. It's funny. So like we were married for 10 years before we had kids, or 9 years.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
And then like you really want kids, and not going into that whole story, but we eventually had kids,
Right.
and you had to be like, oh man, it was a lot quieter before. You're like, you love them, but yeah, this is different, because you're settled. There's a buddy of mine, I've known him for 10, 12 years. He had twins year of being married.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what it's like to just be married. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes. Yeah, and it
So-
is different.
It definitely is. But when you have kids, and you do the kind of things that we do, all three of us do, gaming, and we all met through streaming.
Mhm.
You know, your kids may want to pick up that hobby too, or they may just want to do it casually. But we've kind of talked before, Bearded and I, about kind of keeping the kids safe and things like that. But how do you, Dad, demonstrate like responsible gaming behavior and like that time management? I know we were talking about that before stream too,
Horribly.
but
Yes.
to your kids, like in try to set that good example.
So yeah. So it's actually interesting. Our eldest daughter is all about video games. Like she loves
Cool.
the Nintendo Switch. She likes Pokemon. She was huge into Minecraft. Our youngest, she is not really that into it. It just hasn't taken to her. She's more into the YouTube and like almost more like fact based stuff. Like she likes the funny stuff. I mean, who doesn't love them? They love the internet for the memes.
The 5-minute hacks and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, she loves that stuff. She loves the doctors, but she doesn't watch any of like the the back then. I mean, I don't know who's who now on YouTube and stuff like that, but like your Logan Paul stuff like that, she's not into those. She has no desire to watch anyone like that. But the first time that we kind of had a discussion about this with our eldest daughter was for Minecraft, because Minecraft is massive, right?
Yep.
It's ages 8 to 88, like you just don't know. And so we kind of gave her a warning of like a heads up. So we started with no talking, right? We started with no chatting, no nothing like that. And then we slowly, like, I'd say you slowly let them in, right? Or you let in some
You
chat,
need
you let
to.
them see.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not about the and this is where it comes in different from like the firefighter in me to the dad in me. In firefighting, it's very very much strictly sink or swim. Like you either perform or you don't, right? Like
Yeah.
it's always a pressure situation because God, everyone's got a phone and everyone's videotaping and everyone's watching and you're going to be on whatever and you don't know what's going to pop on the internet. And it could be you doing something where you had a fatal flaw and you did something wrong, yada, yada, yada. But with kids, and I still do agree with this, is if you're not winning, you're learning. And that's what I told them, because they kind of had, both of them, a little bit of
I like that.
anxiety. Yeah, they had a little bit of anxiety as they were getting older and into sports. Our youngest is super aggressive, like almost gets to the point like in her teammates' faces, or like has these natural reactions in the field. And she's 10, like she's a savage. And I'm just like, I had to have a talk with her. I'm like, I was like, you are really gonna have a problem with your teammates, and you're gonna be the one out in the cold. It's not gonna, like, you don't want to be that player.
Yeah.
Right. So the communication started there with her, but with the gaming and the older one, we would slowly let Among Us became a huge thing with both of them. And so you kind of gotta communicate in that one because you're trying to find out who done it.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
avoid chat
so-
in that game.
You can't really avoid chat in there. So what we did is we don't necessarily curse on the regular in our house, but our kids know like language and what is okay and what is not. Just as they've slowly grown up, we've enforced these and instilled these rules to some degree upon them. And if you see something, you can silence that person.
Yeah.
And I'll come down and check on them after 10 15 minutes, and they'll be like, hey, I just silenced the guy that was this green one here, but he was saying things that weren't okay, Dad. And I'm like, yes. And so I really instill a lot of trust in them because I don't want to be that parent. And I made this decision super early in having kids. I didn't want to be that parent that always thought my kid was going to mess up, right? Like a cloud over your kid, like, oh my God, Dad's going to catch me, yada yada. Listen, there's no reason for me not to trust you until you do something that makes me not trust you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we've done our entire parenting. They have a very, very extensive, play area in the world. Like, we let them kind of roam. We don't really, like, as some parents might say, like yank on their leash, or like we don't hard correct. We just go, well, what did you learn? And that's where we kind of do you're either winning or you're learning. A failure is just one way of knowing that that's not how that works.
That's awesome to hear.
Actually like that.
We've talked, in previous episodes about getting your kids to the point where they can make those decisions without you around.
Yeah.
And
Dude.
it's awesome. It's awesome when you get a chance to see that they make the right choices.
Yep.
I just want to touch on one thing real quick. You say your 10-year-old is a bit of a savage.
Yep.
I love that. I think
I
that is
do
awesome.
too. We make sure we don't and we're very careful to not, like, some parents will want to knock that out of their kid. Like, they'll want to talk it out of them, right? But no, like that,
need that
to
confidence.
them, that's their personality. That's part of them. If you try and rip that out of them, at some point, and we're talking about this, the hormones are going to come out, and that's going to come out real bad. And it's going to come out at a real inopportune time, and it's going to jam you up as a parent. And you really could have just been kind of like leaning into it instead of trying to sweep it under a rug.
Yeah. I wish I could bottle a little of that up and give it to my boys. They tend to be a bit more passive, and
Our oldest is a little more passive. Yeah.
I was quieter growing up, but I became much more assertive as I got older.
Yes.
And I wish I was that way when I was younger, because things would have been different, I think.
I've just carried it the whole way through life.
I see them out there playing sports, and they're not being assertive, and I want to go out there. I'm like, I want to go into the body of my kid right now. And just take care of business,
Yeah. Absolutely.
But, it's hard, but when I'm doing that, I have to temper myself.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about what you think too, Bearded. How do you embody that good role model for your kids? So you're kind of teaching them what you want, but you're staying away from trying to live vicariously through them and just letting them be their own person.
First of all, I'd say, because I'm Australian, we swear a lot everywhere here. How I've avoided it with my children, though, is I've actually raised it is that once you've got a steady income, you can use as many swear words as you want. Until then, you can't.
Good.
and it works. And my kids don't swear at all. And they have
mine don't either.
It's flamboyant in our culture down here, swearing, and it's amazing how many children actually don't swear. But we all tell them little lies like that. I mean, it's the truth. But going back to the handling the rage, and that is a lot of times I take myself out of the picture. I just go, hey, give me 5, cool off, walk away for a couple of minutes, have a drink. And I use that time to reassess it, then come back and handle it with the children instead. Because I've tried doing it where you're not in that headspace, so you're frustrated at the time. And it's not great for anyone. No one ends up happy in the end. Everyone's quite miserable by it. So taking that couple of minutes is just needed for me and for them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. I do the same thing, Bearded. I as I got older and started becoming more assertive, I noticed that I would my breaking point for when I got a little too upset was a lot shorter than it was when I was younger. And so like that's the way that I deal with it is I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go upstairs for to my bedroom for like a few minutes, kids. I'll be back. Because I we've talked before about not being the angry parent that yells all the time either.
Yeah.
It's not healthy. I was reading something the other day that said like the yelling at your kids is just as bad as like harmful verbal abuse or physical abuse in terms of like their development and their psyche. So like you may not hit your kid, but if you're constantly yelling at them,
Yeah.
in like a demeaning way, that is just as impactful. So I try to keep a calm demeanor as best I can.
I also use my
Well,
wife's face as a gauge too. When I say
the
something,
way
like
she's
the wife,
looking?
like how she
Ooh.
looks, it's like, okay, I've gone over that boundary.
Yeah.
I'm going to hear about this when it's just us. Um,
Yeah.
That's a
For
good
me,
gauge.
I actually, and this took a long time to develop this pattern within myself, is because let's face it, when anybody is upset, your emotions don't allow you to articulate your situation or your feeling that well, right? Like
Yeah.
we could all, I mean, anybody that's listening to this and us three guys here talking, you don't get the words out that it's just not smooth, right? It's very rough. You think your brain is saying things, but it's just not coming out. And what I do is I go, okay, I hear, like, and I stop and I pause. I'm hearing what you're saying. Why don't you explain it to me again a bit? Because I feel like I'm missing something. And then what that does is immediately puts that person out of the defensive offensive mindset. And it's now instead of like, I had a lieutenant that told me this, he's like, instead of being like this wide range of just everything is getting attacked, if you hone in on it, he's like, and you focus up, everything becomes smoother, better, stronger, faster. And that's what I do with our daughters when they do get upset. I'm like, all right, I hear you, but I feel like I might have missed something. Could you explain it to me again? Just
Repeating
and
it
I
back.
just think that I didn't hear it, or I feel like I'm missing stuff. But could you explain it again? That
Yeah.
person immediately makes them stop and think about what they're going to be saying now, instead of letting the emotion run them, and that seems to help a lot in our family.
I do a lot of the repeating back. Like they'll get the story and then I go, okay, so what I'm hearing, this is what I've got.
Yes.
Do I have this correct? I'm going to say
Active
it back
listening.
to you. Active listening. I'm
Yep.
giving it back to you. Is this correct? Did I hear this right?
Yep.
And then I go, no, that's not right. Okay, cool. What was wrong with it?
Yep. That's awesome too. Yeah. I do that one as well.
Yeah. I need to do more of that. Being perfectly honest, I need to do more of
time. It takes. I'm telling you, I'm still not great at it. I wouldn't even know if to tell you the truth if I'm good at it. But because as a parent, you're not that you're trying to be superior, but you're trying to be like the rock, the standstill motion. Like,
Yep.
the waves are crashing on you. This kid is coming in hard, and you're supposed to be the one that's solid, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, man, that kid says some things, and you're just like,
I've turned from a smooth pebble into a sharp
Yeah.
rock.
And it's difficult even as an adult to stop yourself. You're like, okay, just all right.
Especially when like when they get to a certain age, like our kids, we have kids, in the 10, 12, 13 range. They know what they're saying now, right?
Yeah.
Like they know sarcasm, they know things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
They know how
Yeah.
to
My
press your
15-year-old
buttons
doesn't.
and like, but then he's like, oh yeah, I'm the adult here, right?
Dude,
Okay.
your movement of putting your hat down over your eyes, that is the exact feeling inside your brain at the moment. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I want to change gears just a little bit. Before the show, you were talking about how you, as a streamer, you were, you were sacrificing some of your family time to grow
Oh,
your
yeah.
your other career.
Yeah.
And we've all been there. Anyone who's listening to this, as that whether you're a streamer or just a gamer or whatever, you get into that hobby. So, two questions here: how do you manage that, and how do you, if your kids get into a hobby, how do you sort of teach them how to balance their time so they're not alienating everything or forgetting homework, like not like my kid does.
Right.
Mm,
Um, I would say okay. So a little like going backwards a little bit. So in high school, I was what would call a pretty good player. I was a pretty good lacrosse player. Okay. I got some recognition and stuff like that from doing well in it. The problem and it still even has backlash to this day from the whip cracking then, is I became obsessed with that sport. Like it's all I wanted to do. It's all I wanted to spend my time with. And I don't really have a great relationship with any. Like I come from a brother sister combination of I'm the oldest, and then I have two younger sisters, and then the youngest is my brother. So there's four of us kids.
Right.
I don't have a real good relationship with any of them. And I look back on my time when I was in high school, and they were, obviously younger than I.
Yep.
I spent, if it could have gone into the negative, it would have gone into the negative. Like I spent zero time with them or talking to them. I was outside. I was at practice. I was playing with I was all that stuff.
I
Fast
get
forward,
that.
it's yeah.
I get
Fast
that.
forward, I did the same. I kind of laid off in college and almost failed out of fire school after I found out that you can't just slip through life and the reality check city, right? Population me. Um, I had to crack down and basically become obsessed about firefighting. And so I did really well when I went through fire school, and I passed. I mean, the first semester was it was shady and shifty as all could get out. I barely made it. Um, if 60 was passing, I got 60. Like it was that tight. Um, Later on, I really didn't take life too seriously after that, and I wasn't getting a fire job, and I was like 25, and I was like, I can't believe this, like no job is just like, I can't believe no one's just coming and asking me, hey, you want to be a firefighter or a department? Well, in 2005, unless you were trying to actively be a firefighter, there were no jobs. It was just no spots available. It was like you taking these government tests with about 300 of your closest known friends, and people you were with in school, and you've seen the same people at every single test.
Yeah.
um and then uh I just, when I get into something, my problem is like I don't know how to get off the pedal. Like it's just been like my entire life. um and that is what happened with me in streaming. So when I started streaming, that pedal went all the way to the floor, like Fred Flintstone. For those of you who remember who that is, that's how far that pedal went down.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get
And
that. I
it's
think we all do.
Yep, yep. And it happened when I got separated from my ex-wife. I went into obsessively working. I went from obsessively working to, thank God my wife was like, please God, stop. I was
Yeah, I'm
like,
an
oh,
excessive
what do you
party.
mean? Right. And she's like, I never see you. We don't spend any time together, and we're just trying to start this relationship, and you kind of got it as a relationship right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I kind of stepped back from that job, and I was obsessed with my family. But then our kids started going to school, and now I have all this time during the days, because as a firefighter, you work every third day, and that sounds great, but then you come
Oh,
home
really?
and you're up all night. Yeah, so we
Huh.
work 24 on, we have 48 hours off.
Okay.
Um,
Huh.
and then, but the problem is you wake up at 2 in the morning, you wake up at 4 in
Yeah.
the morning, you wake up at 6, and then you leave at 7, and you come home and you're like, oh God, it hurts.
Yeah.
Everything hurts.
Yeah.
Um, and then our kids started going to school during the day, and I was like, I don't have anything to really do. So I really got into working out and all that stuff, and then I started streaming. But like I said, I got obsessive about streaming. I was about to, I was close to hitting the numbers, and then I don't know what happened, but there was some kind of reality check inside my brain says, "Yo, man, is the juice worth the squeeze?" And it wasn't. I still do streaming and I enjoy it, but I have no intentions on trying to blast my way to 75 on Twitch or anything like that. And I'm honestly super excited about the people that I have met though through streaming. Like I have made some really, really good people and great connections with individuals that I would have never met in my entire life. And my wife still thinks that's insane to me, or insane for me that's happened. And I'm like, agree. I agree with you. Like I didn't expect to
Right.
become, friends with you guys or, other people that I've played video games with and been in their streams and they've been in my the craziest story. And I'm just going to do the story real quick because this is one of the craziest stories ever. I'm doing my best work in the bathroom and I'm watching Twitch and it was when a zombie game came out and I met a guy that was streaming. I was like, "Hey man," I was like, "Do you want to stream together?" And he's like, sure." He's like, "When are you streaming?" I was like, "In like 10 minutes." And he's like, "Yeah, we'll join together and play the same game." We still play games to this day, and that was 2 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I would have like, let's face it, like most firefighters, like some of them play video games, but not really anymore. Like we used to play video games when we were younger, but it's really oddly enough worked out real well.
I hope the best work you were doing that day worked out really well too.
It was
So.
it was fine. It was fine.
I guess just like you were talking about managing everything and balancing and that. How do you talk to your kids about prioritizing like their time between their school and their gaming so they don't get into that habit that you also had like as an adult?
Yeah.
Have you tried talking to kids about that? Like,
Yeah, so our oldest one gets obsessive like I do. Like about others, like they both get obsessed about their own things. Like our youngest was oddly enough really good at lacrosse. Like she is really like she has the bug. Like she just really enjoys that. And I'm very ever so watchful of her. Like I'm very, very aware of the tendencies that she could develop that I did, where she doesn't end up having a connection with her oldest sister.
well, we're doing that
Well,
with my youngest at the moment. She's her, well, not her youngest, middle child. She has a routine at the moment, and she locks herself into routines. But
yes,
breaking it at the moment is her coming home from school, and then she just wants to go straight into her room, door closed, because she's at 11 now. So she's thinking of moving into that teenage hormonal era that started. She locks herself into the room, puts herself into there, and then it's actually trying to pry out. It's like, look, you got to go balance this stuff. You can't be in there the whole time. You can't come outside. You got to have technology free time. And as much as I don't want to do that, it sucks.
I
You
totally agree.
Pull those things on.
So what I do is I call it like free range, right? And what we do with our oldest, and we do this with our youngest as well, but it very much is prioritized towards the idea of free range. You can do and you can make up your own schedule. Until there is an issue, I expect you to be responsible and do you. If your routine is waking up, taking a shower, brushing your, having breakfast, brushing your teeth, yada yada yada, then you do that. If your others, if our youngest daughter, her routine's like XYZ, then yeah. But for an example, our oldest, like I was saying, is big into like the Nintendo Switch and Pokemon. She doesn't play until she comes home and does all her homework and it's done, because there is a certain amount of, as a parent, you do want to instill a certain amount of fear. And I know that maybe there's parents out there that don't understand this, but I'm telling you, if you instill a tiny bit of fear into your children, that itself will take over. And I'll give you an example, and not to the point where it's detrimental, but this is my example. If you don't do your homework, and you wait until tonight after you've had all your good times,
Yeah.
right? You're going to be jammed up. You're going to cause yourself to have a bunch of stress. You're going to get nervous. You're not going to operate as smoothly as you would have earlier.
Yeah.
It's going to be more difficult, but you can do it whatever way you want. If it works a certain way for you, I'm not going to say anything to you. And the other way, I explained it to her. I was like, however, if you get home and you immediately knock out all your work, you have the entire rest of the evening to yourself. You're not going to hear a word from me. Now, they still want to come and play games, and we still always eat dinner together. We always have our things that we do.
Yeah.
But you have free range. And the one thing that our oldest came home and actually she got her first grades, and she's in 6th grade this year.
Yep.
And this kind of lets me know we're doing things right. And it's not to say that other parents are doing it wrong, but for our child, makes me feel like we're doing it right. She came home and she goes, "Oh, my friend asked, what grades I was getting." And our oldest daughter has like the lowest grade she has is like a 96.4%, which is I'm sorry, I never hit any of those grades when I was in middle school. I hit like a 46.3. like I was not a great student, and she's crushing it. She's absolutely crushing it.
Yeah,
and her friend asked her, your parents must be so proud, yada, yada, yada. She goes, "Oh, my parents don't care," which is true to a degree. We don't care. And her parents are like, "What do you mean? My parents, are always on me about getting, A's and B's and yada, yada." She goes, "No, my parents have never even said those words to me." She goes, "My parents, all they said is, if I don't try, that's when we're going to have a problem."
We
She goes,
do that at
"Yeah?
my house. Exactly that. I mean,
Yes.
so I'll get a report card, and our report cards have your A's and B's and C's and all that. That's not the thing I look at on the report card. I look at underneath each subject there is an effort, and it's good, bad, excellent, satisfactory, whatever. That's the only thing I care about. If I can see that you've got an excellent and you pulled a C, then that means you've done your best. You can't do any more, and I'm happy that you're trying your hardest.
Yes.
If you come in like my son, he's the problem one with bad, because I know he has a brilliant mind. He started school fantastically, and then he's kind of worked out minimum effort to get a C is how he's trying to get through high school now. And so he comes in and it's he's got a C and needs attention for his effort. Well, we're having a conversation, because that's, to me, there's effort to be involved in, and that's how we reward our kids. They come home, they give us that report card. I've got to do it this weekend actually for the oldest, because she had excellence on everything. It's like, cool, you can pick dinner for a night. That's what I do for. Cool. That's it. The kids come home, they give us a report card with great effort involved. They can pick dinner for the night.
That's cool.
And it encourages them to keep working.
Yep. Yeah, I do something similar. It's like, if you come with good grades, you don't have to sleep in the basement tonight. Congratulations.
Yeah, you win a room.
We've had such a great time with Daily Dad that we're splitting this episode into 2. So come back next week for part 2.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the podcast today. If you like it, be sure to share it, leave comments, and we'll catch you next time on the Dadmode.